Welcome back to Digital Wandering, and today I wanted to talk about Windows Phone again. I received a comment at some point, and someone was suggesting a Windows Phone video about, uh, I'm paraphrasing here, but the apps that are still functional, and I guess there's a way to future proof your experience going forward. And that's a really important thing. I definitely understand that. There actually are videos on YouTube of people showing how to future proof your phone or what apps are still functional. Now, I don't, although this is my favorite phone, the Windows Lumia 930, and I have the one in white here. Also, have the one in orange as well, over to the side. But it's really difficult to future proof these phones because you don't really know what's going to break and at what time. As a device stops being supported, what I tend to do is migrate to the applications that will continue to work going forward without support. So things like the calculator, things like the camera. These will continue to work as long as the device is still operational, even without any support from Microsoft. Uh, like a lot of the built-in apps, some of them will break. I mean, like Microsoft Edge, uh, over time, as it's going further and further from its point of support, it's going to be able to access fewer and fewer websites. So anything that connects to the internet is going to be problematic. You do still have some major apps that are still functional, like Netflix. Although I don't think I'm signed into Netflix on that phone. Let me see here. Netflix is still functional. And let's see here. And Netflix is probably the second most important streaming platform behind YouTube. So it's really important. And let's see here. And I'm just signed into my Netflix. Okay, and let's just see how this still works. So, since this is not my main device, let's also make sure that the volume is turned down. Media volume is off. Okay, so it's still loading. Okay, there we go. Since this is not my main device any longer, this is not the main device that I would watch Netflix on, but it is still functional. So that's just to show that certain major sites are still going to be working on here. That was the orange. Let me go back to the white here. So also we have Pandora and so let's see here. We have so this is still functional as well. And it's a shame that I just can't let the music rock here. But as you see, this is also functional. So uh, Spotify is still functional. And you know how I do, I always have to pull it away from the camera just to make sure that yeah, so this is now these are the Pandora app that I showed and the Spotify app. These are the official apps. Now, these apps probably haven't been supported for some time. Actually, let's just turn up the volume a little bit for a few seconds just to see if it's playing just fine. Yeah, it is. Let's turn that back down. So Pandora, Spotify, Netflix still works on the platform, which is great. Uh, those are all major sites that people use every day. Some of the let me see if there's another. Like, I don't think Facebook is operational here any longer. This one, it does it gives you an option to sign in, but then it says sorry, something went wrong. Please try again. So that error message is definitely telling you something there. I don't know if you can still. I'm thinking you can maybe still access mobile Facebook through the Edge browser. YouTube is going to be a problem. YouTube does not function. When I try it on Edge, it doesn't function. But you do have YouTube apps that you can use. Okay, now we also have TuneIn Radio. And let's just see what CNN does here. Yeah, so this is still functional as well. So based on your usage, what you have to kind of do with Windows Phone is to pull up additional apps. And actually, this is still it doesn't look like this is playing just yet. It's still thinking about it. Let me turn up the volume and see if it's doing anything right now. It's actually still playing the Spotify. Let's stop that here. Yeah, this is, let me try a different, let's see here. Let's try this right here. This is still thinking about it. Now, one thing, since this is not my main phone any longer, I don't really test out these apps. That's one of the value of using a device exclusively, is that it gets your undivided attention. And this app looks so great and it's so functional as far as navigating. I'm really surprised that it's having trouble. Okay, there we go. Finally. It took a while for it to load, but let's just turn that down here. So TuneIn Radio may be a little finicky, but it is looks like it is basically operational. And you really don't like there could be issues, and I've heard people saying they had issues with Spotify. It seems to be functional on my end, but it's possible that there are things that it's not able to do that you would normally be able to do in a functioning app. A lot of the pre-installed Windows Microsoft apps, Windows apps here, many of them are still going to work, although some, because what's going to happen is a lot of these apps, because they're not receiving support from Microsoft any longer, at some point the cloud services are going to stop working. You're not going to be able to sync what you do on this device with other devices on whether desktop or other Microsoft services on other platforms, on iPhone or Android. All that should be able to sync together through the cloud. But at some point, an old app is going to stop syncing. When that happens, I don't know. And also, at some point, with certain apps, they will stop working altogether, even if they have offline capabilities. Let me show you here. For example, the Translator app, this one right here. Let's just look at that. At one point, let's see if we can even open this here. I have all the offline packs here. See, I have all the offline packs. And this does not work any longer. So while this was functioning, I downloaded the offline packs thinking, and they're fairly small in size. They don't take up a lot of storage space. But I thought I could still maintain functionality offline by downloading these offline packs. but it doesn't work. The only thing it does now is that it can, at least the last time I checked, let's just see if it will. Yeah, so it can do that, but it does it by going over the internet. If you turn, let's see if we can turn off the Wi-Fi, and let's try it again here. Just turn the Wi-Fi off. See, now it's telling me I cannot connect because of the network connection. So it only works now by accessing the internet, and it can translate words, but it doesn't do anything else, even though I have all the offline packs here. So certain apps will stop functioning once Microsoft pulls the plug, and the things that you could previously do offline will stop working as well. So I'm thinking that at some time that's going to affect OneDrive. It's going to affect OneNote. It's going to affect Outlook, obviously. So even though these devices have offline functions now, once the plug is pulled entirely, like it has for the Translator app, certain offline functions will stop working too. YouTube, I haven't been able to access YouTube on the Edge browser. I'm in North America. Sometimes people in different countries have different outcomes. So I think there might be some people that still say that they can access it on their device. And also this is on the Lumia 930, maybe on a 950, you still can do it. I don't know. But it doesn't work for me. So I have to use third-party things. So you have MyTube. MyTube will still work on YouTube. Let's just get this little wipe down just to get rid of some of those fingerprints. And let's just find a video that is the least offensive. Let's see how that works. So this is still functioning just fine on YouTube. All right, so let's just get out of there. Although, so I mentioned you can't do this in Edge any longer. But here's another app that still functions very well. The Google News app. This is an unofficial app. There was only, I think, one official Google app on Windows Phone, and it was just a search app. It was no difference than going to google.com on your browser. So it wasn't the greatest app. That's the only one I can think of. I don't think they had any others. But this is a really decent app here for news. Many of the included news apps that Microsoft had are not functioning any longer. The one that still functions for me is sports. Money, you can still see headlines. Oh, okay, it's not working here. Is it money or is it a finance? I could have sworn I used money recently, and it did at the very least show me headlines, but it's not even showing me that now. Twitter, I think, works, but I'm not signed in on this device. I'm trying to, the Monument browser is what I'm looking for. So here we go. We have the Monument browser. And as you know, let me pull it away just so I can make it easier for me to type. Having a secondary browser can add functionality. I showed that on my Windows 8.1 video where I was able to access YouTube using the, what is it called? The SC browser. The one that has the squirrel as the as a symbol. But this works, YouTube works on here on the Monument browser. So although it doesn't work on Edge, it still works here. And let's just look at that. So it's now playing an ad. Let's just get out of here right now. Let me just show you what happens if I go to YouTube on Edge. Let's just look at that here. Edge is still fairly functional on a lot of different websites, but YouTube, but at least the last time I checked, was not one of them. So now I'm just pulling up YouTube. So flipping back and forth between the Monument browser and the Edge browser. Hey, look at this. This is YouTube on Edge. It actually pulled up. Previously, when I did this, I would not be able to access the pages. It would give me basically a blank page. And let's just see how the playback is. So you learn something new all the time. Ha! It is working. YouTube is working on the Edge browser. That's great. So I have to reevaluate some things here. So one of the great things about doing these retro videos live, my videos are unscripted. I sometimes find new things that I thought were not working are working just fine here, at least on this device. Let me see if I can try to do that on the, have my orange Lumia 930 here as well. And I'm just going to pull up YouTube. And see what happens. Okay, let me see here. I turned off my Wi-Fi. Let's reconnect it. Okay. Okay, so this is what I've been talking about here. Now, I think I know what the problem is here. I think I know what the problem is here. I have to try to pull up the mobile YouTube. When it pulls up the desktop, it can't access the desktop. I think probably I have it on pulling up the desktop site as the default. Yeah, so that's the issue here. That's why YouTube is not working. So I have to go to settings, go from desktop version to mobile version. And let's see here, we can do that again. Yeah, that's the issue here. It's pulling up the desktop version as the default. There we go. That was the issue. I had it on desktop settings. So you see with the YouTube. So YouTube still works on Edge. This is probably also the case on the Monument browser as well. That because the Monument browser as default, I have it as the mobile version is probably the default there. But here I had my Edge as the default, the desktop version. And the desktop version is not accessible any longer, but mobile still is. So that's great. So it still has some life in it just yet. All right, so there we have it. This is a short video. One other thing I do want to mention here is I also downloaded a lot of games, a lot of apps here. I went online and I found a list, I think on Reddit, of people listing offline games for Windows Phone. So I went and added a lot of those offline games to my device. I'm not much of a gamer, but I figure that having as many offline games as possible just gives my device a greater use going forward, because once the store is shut down, I'm not going to have the ability to add some of these games. So let's see here. And this game seems to be playable, although I'm a terrible player and I don't necessarily play this that often. So it seems to be working just fine. just to show the offline games that I have here. The Checkers Deluxe and Chess are not offline as far as I know. Frantic, Paco, I think is how you pronounce that. Squadron, and Warbats. Those are the ones that I added. Although this one is, I'm having trouble with it. Paco. It just won't load. So let's see if it does it today. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Yeah, it just won't load here. I think it was a little finicky the first time I played it, but it did. I was able to play it at a certain point. I don't know if I have to change. It might be something to do with the this default name pops up. Maybe I have to change that to something else. But it doesn't seem to be working. The other ones seem to be working just fine. Although, to be honest, I don't play the games that much. I just wanted to have some games, and I thought offline going forward would be the ones to keep. But yeah, it's a work in progress with these devices. I do use it. I do use these Windows phones probably every other day. Sometimes daily, depends on the month, but about every other day. But but I tend to use the core features like the camera. I have media saved on here. I watch the media that I have saved on these devices. And the other stuff is just edgings on the side that I sometimes use. But I love these phones so much that I'm still finding out new things. I think there's one value of using a device as like your third or fourth device, not as your main device, is that you can discover new things all the time. But that discovery can be stretched over long periods of time, as opposed to this is the main and only device I use. I would know all the ins and outs of the device and every app on it. But it's so much fun to be using these devices, although I think I probably use too many. I've been using a lot of Ubuntu Touch mostly, so that's cutting into my Windows Phone, my Android time, and even in my iOS time. It's all over the place. The one thing I use all the time is my MacBook, my main MacBook. I use that all the time, every day. Everything else, I'm juggling. Apple has a presentation today, an event where they're going to release some new information, some new devices. So I'm going to be definitely watching that. That's going to be fun to watch. But I do want to thank you very much for tuning in here. This is Digital Wandering, signing off.